Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Particle Accelerator Podcast, where we talk to future thinking business leaders about how to grow their team and accelerate their business. I'm here today with Mark. Mark, would you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, Mark LaCour, Editor-in-Chief of Oil and Gas Global Network. Happy to be here, Benjamin. Just looking for a little bit of fun, have a great conversation, get to know you and maybe your listeners a little bit.
Cool. Awesome. So I'd love to get to know people by asking this question. What was your first job? How'd you make your first dollar? For me, it was a paper route, but what was it for you?
First dollar was throwing hay for 10 cents a bale. My first job what did involve family and farms was actually, I guess it did involve farms. The next one was picking tomatoes, but it was somebody else's tomatoes. That was my second way I made money, throwing hay at probably 12, 13 years old.
What part of the country was that?
It was South Louisiana or middle of Louisiana, a little town called Zachary, which is north of Baton Rouge.
Awesome. Southern guy. Cool. What toy or hobby influenced what you do career-wise today? What part of your childhood do you think influenced what you do today the most?
That's a damn good question. I've never thought about that before. Probably the fact that if I'm not careful, I tend to want to be a people pleaser. And when you do a podcast, all of a sudden you can please a lot of people at one time. So that's probably what influenced me from my childhood, is that personality trait I have of just wanting to help make people happy.
Yeah, cool. What was your favorite and least favorite course in school?
Oh, that's an interesting one. So my favorite course was actually biology. My least favorite was chemistry. The funny thing about that was when I graduated back in the 80s, I had to take bioorganic chemistry 3 times where I actually passed it, and I hated it. And now I love chemistry and understand it way better than I did in college or high school, which is just funny. I tell young people all the time, it's like, I don't care how you plan your life. It's going to zig and zag, and you're not sure where you're going to end up. Just enjoy the ride.
Yeah. What quote from a famous person lives in your mind rent-free?
I don't have a quote from a famous person that lives in my mind rent-free. The closest thing is a fictitious person from Andrew Doyle's, who wrote the Conan series of books. That which does not kill me makes me strong, but Conan wasn't a real character, although I wish he was.
Fair. Doesn't kill me makes me stronger. That's good. That's definitely one of my favorites. My coach says it. I think it was a Dr. Dre or Notorious B.I.G. type of thing. It was like, everybody wants to be a gangster till it's time to do gangster stuff. Along the same lines, I've heard quite often, everybody wants to be a fighter till they get punched in the face. The Mike Tyson quote. Oh, good. What do you think the greatest invention or discovery has been in the past 300 years?
Ooh, that's a tough one. So we've been using the hydrocarbon molecule as a species longer than 300 years. So I can't grab that one. Probably the ability to compute, process, and pass information over an internet. It's been a game changer from literally every person on this planet. A lot of ways really good, some ways not so good, but it has definitely changed our culture and our civilization, and we'll continue to do the same thing.
Yeah, I look at the Industrial Revolution and the information age as lessons from each other. We figured out the combustion engine and how to make machines. As a society, we were pretty irresponsible. We did a lot of polluting. If we could do it, we did it. We didn't really ask if we should. And then over time, we went, maybe borax should not be a household cleaner. Maybe that's not a good thing to put on all of our stuff.
Maybe we shouldn't be killing whales to light our homes. That wasn't too bright an idea, no pun intended.
Exactly. So I think over time, you kind of learn some lessons, and cooler, calmer heads prevail. And I feel like we're doing the same thing with the information age now. Just because we can put it online, maybe doesn't mean we should. As we enter this next era with information, is it correct? Is it politically motivated? All of that is starting to come to a place where I feel like there's a ton of lessons being learned right now, just around how we deal with information. I think in the past we've been irresponsible. And with technology in general, if we could do it, all technology is good. Behind the scenes belief for most of us. If I could buy a gadget, I'll buy the gadget. Like, all technology is good. And I think we're starting to come to a place where maybe it isn't. Maybe there is some technology that I should just not use.
When the first particle accelerator was designed, when they went to push the button, 3 of the lead scientists said, we're not exactly sure what's going to happen. And it could conceivably start a chain reaction in our atmosphere. Maybe you should not have pushed that button. We both know it was okay because that was in the past. There's probably some stuff we need to be extremely careful with because of how advanced we've come with our technology. We just need to keep an eye on them. The human species always prevails. We get into bad situations and we figure out a way to engineer our way out of it and make it better. I think we'll do the same with this. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, cool. What tech trends significantly impacted your industry, and how has your company responded?
We're in a very interesting place. I run Oil and Gas Global Network, the largest oil and gas podcast network in the world. We have 21 shows, I think, today. We have 4 more we're launching this year. And we started the first oil and gas podcast in the world. I'd love to tell you, Benjamin, that I was that smart, but my marketing guy brought me the idea for the first podcast back in 2011 or 2012. I told him that was the stupidest thing that's ever come out of his mouth. Nobody listens to podcasts. Obviously, I was wrong because here we are. From a tech point in my space, the ability to harvest and utilize oil and gas, I'm going to use the word hydrocarbons to describe them all, in a way where we're not impacting the environment in a negative place. It's taken us a long time to get there, and we've gotten it down to science. The science has been there, clean bolt burn technology, the ability to remove carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide from emissions has been there for a long time, but we couldn't do it at scale economically, and we have. And the whole reason we're able to do that is technology. We're now doing big data analytics. The cost of sensorizing equipment has come way down. We figured out how to have connectivity in the middle of nowhere. We figured out how to do compute at the edge so that the processor only raises its hand when there's an exception. All that together has allowed my industry to move really far ahead as far as its impact to the environment. And we still have some ways to go, but I've been in this industry for 27 years. I've seen more technology adapted in the last 5 or 6 years than the previous 20, and we needed it. I hope that trend continues.
One of my buddies that I know for a long time is James Cross. He's got the Coffee with Jim and James, powered by Energy WorldNet podcast. He's been a podcaster in the oil and gas space for a while. So yeah, it sounds.
Dude, you need to make introductions. I look at every other podcaster in the energy space as family, right? And we love to work with them. We love to help them get press passes and help them monetize their shows and everything. So when you get a chance to make an introduction, I'd love to chat with him.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we worked at an online travel company many years ago. So cool. What 3 technology innovations are you betting on to drive your business growth?
My business growth. So let me tell you what I'm aware of. AI. And it's really funny. Your audience probably knows this. AI has been around for a very long time. So is machine learning. It wasn't until just recently that ChatGPT brought to the public's opinion. IBM's one of our sponsors to see Watson in action 10 years ago. But AI is pretty close to being able to replicate what you and I are doing right now. We have our own large language model. We start out working with Notebook, and then we eventually bought a large language model and started training it. I would say today in 2025 that the AI is about 75% along the way of being able to do a complete podcast without any human being involved. And it's something you just need to be aware of. So that's something in my industry I'm looking at really hard. The other one, which you not guess, would be augmented reality. When I think of podcasts and people that like podcasts, typically it's really education through storytelling. Somebody's listening to a podcast so they can learn something when they're doing something like commuting or working out. And they also do it for entertainment, but even entertainment's educational. If you imagine having a lens, so you're still in the real world, maybe you have a contact lens or a glass over, and you can see the data while still being safe while you operate in the real world. That's another thing I need to be aware of from a tech point of view that may affect podcasting. The most immediate thing right now is Google is dragging me kicking and screaming into YouTube. All of our podcasts up until recently were audio first. I still think it's the best format, but Google has so much reach and they're turning the algorithms up that if you're in the podcasting space and you're not on YouTube, you need to be. Like I said, I'm being dragged kicking and screaming into YouTube, but we're doing it.
Right. No, those are great things on the AI front. I own a software development business. We're helping people with AI agents and AI workflows. I've even put a few things together for reviewing resumes. Now, my resume scanning is an AI agent, so I can make sure that my recruiters are only spending time on the best resumes. What I worry about is people developing addictive relationships. Like I have boys, I have a 9-year-old and then some older boys. Hopefully the older boys are past this trend. But for this topic, like younger than 13, I would be really worried about a potential struggle they may have with an artificial relationship. I know this may be controversial, but I think of OnlyFans without the model. Like it's a digital representation. And then like, I can't tell my wife to be more affirming and have that conversation go well. But I could tell an AI girlfriend to be more affirming and she'd just say, okay, cool. From now on, I'll be more affirming with you. And how addictive would that be? But also how might that stunt my growth and development as an adolescent? So I'm thinking about that. And I don't think that's as much science fiction as I would like it to be. I think it's really something that might be a struggle for young adults.
So there's always 2 sides to everything. What you just described is a real concern, but the flip side is the people that would like the emotional support that can't get it in real life. Would it be beneficial for them to have an AI companion? And I think the answer is yes, but there is a balancing act there. The one thing that I will say, and I've thought about this since I learned this when I was I don't know, 19 or 20 years old. Back in the very early 1800s, the kaleidoscope was invented. You know, the little thing you look through with the glass, right? And the newspapers all over the world were talking about how kaleidoscopes were ruining our youth. All they're doing is spending time on the kaleidoscopes. They would not become productive members of our society. It was causing a rift and everything. And then the same conversation happened around the telegraph and around radio and newspaper and TV and video games and internet. Our young people figured out it's the older people that I'm probably a little bit more worried about is having those non-healthy relationships with robotics, AI, whatever. Like I said, there's another side to it where it could be beneficial. I think as parents, the biggest thing we can do is watch, understand. Don't get so busy in life that you just ignore what your kids are doing. Your kids are going to learn their lessons the hard way no matter what. As much as it pains me, I did it too. I have a 20-year-old son, but I remember walking up the stairs when he was 6 or 7 years old, and he didn't know I was behind him. He had his iPad with him, and he was writing code. And I go, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I'm making a mod for Minecraft." And I go, "How did you learn to do that?" He goes, "YouTube. I taught myself." How cool is it we live in a world where your kids can teach themselves code to do something they want to do? So I think we're going to be okay. But as parents, you're absolutely right. We need to be aware of it and not just ignore it. See what social platforms your kids are using. Maybe there's some they shouldn't be using at whatever age they are. If we get to the point where there's AI and robotics as former relationships and you're a parent, understand what's going on. I think we'll be okay. But you, as a parent, I do think we need to be aware of what's going on in this situation.
Absolutely. You're talking about AI creating essentially AI produced podcasts. The idea behind them would be human generated, right?
So yes, I literally can push enter, and in about 50 microseconds, once we give the AI the subject, it will go do the research, put the two voices together, structure the conversation, throw some humor in there if we ask it to, if we give the right prompts, and it produces a high quality audio podcast instantly, right? Now, I will say this much. It took us forever to teach the difference between essential oils and hydrocarbon oils. So for the longest time, we'd say, okay, we want to talk about the difference between drilling a well in West Texas and Dakota. And it would come back going, when you drill for lavender oil, it's like you don't drill for lavender oil. So we're not there yet, but we're this close. Then the thing is are people going to want to listen to it? Because right now you can tell it's AI generated if you listen to it. I think somewhere in the future you won't be able to tell, but things like search engine rankings, is Google's AI going to give extra Google juice to AI created content or less Google juice? We don't know that yet, but it is Google's AI that we're making that judgment. It is a very interesting world we're headed into.
What do you think the most significant gaps or challenges are between where we are today and your ambitions for the future?
We all know about the need for more data centers, more electrical generation. I think that's going to drive something that people haven't thought of yet. When you have someone like, and Amazon's one of our sponsors too, not the content company, not the big box retail company, but Amazon Energy Services inside AWS. When you think about Amazon generating its own electricity to secure their data centers and keep their costs down, they're naturally going to oversupply themselves for future needs, which means they're going to have extra electricity. And to me, that means they're going to sell it to the public. They're going to have brand new infrastructure. It's going to be rock solid because it's going to be their infrastructure. They don't want it to fail. And so living here in Texas, in a heartbeat, I'd plop down my credit card to buy electricity from Amazon versus my current suppliers, because I know it's going to be cheaper and better and more reliable. I think that trend is going to amplify itself through the world. The other thing that's going on big picture wise is our population growth is slowing down. We're at 8 billion people now. We'll peak about 10. But after that, the population will start declining. It's going to decline rapidly, which means somewhere in the future, there's going to be abundant resources. There's going to be less people, so there should be less conflict. We shouldn't be fighting over food or oil or territory or anything else. So I think we're headed toward a utopia if we don't screw it up between now and then. When I'm looking at what's going on big picture wise, technology is literally in the middle of everything that's going on. Even things like space travel. At some point, our sun will run out of hydrogen, and it's not going to be pretty for our planet. And the only way our species are going to survive is to get into outer space. Now, of course, Elon Musk is leading that charge, but even that is totally dependent on technology. You can't do those computations in your head. So I think from a human species point of view, the future is bright. I think it's going to be wonderful. We're going to do a lot of really cool stuff, but it's all going to be hinged on our use of technology.
Yeah. What do you think the biggest challenges are for you to maintain your competitive edge in your industry?
As long as we don't screw up, we're good. The pandemic helped us a lot. So we grew 170% during the pandemic. I thought when it started, it was going to put us out of business. Why the hell would somebody sponsor a podcast and they're laying people off? What we figured out is a lot of big companies had budgets that were earmarked toward conferences and trade shows to get in front of their prospects and existing buyers. But if they didn't spend that money, they were going to lose it. The people they wanted to get in front of were locked down at home. But because they were locked down at home, they were bored. The consumption of our content quadrupled. We accidentally were the only marketing game in town. And that's why we picked up a lot of these big names that we still have sponsoring our stuff. And so we're known in the industry. We put out high quality content. We take our journalistic integrity seriously. However, if we get lazy and start putting out crappy content or not having regular releases, somebody new and younger is going to catch up with us. But in between now and the pandemic, everybody became a podcaster. For a while, we couldn't buy microphones and camera lenses, which means the market's flooded with crappy content. So our competitive differentiator is the fact that we're first, biggest, and best. But if we get too happy with what's going on and not pay attention to what our audiences want, we're going to lose that lead. Our audiences are always led by the younger generation. Our first success were with millennials. They got out of college. Now millennials are in their 40s, mid-level management. So now we're creating shows for Generation Z. I don't know what's going to come after that, Benjamin, but whatever it is, we have to do it. So as long as we do that, we're okay. If we don't, we're going to lose market share.
Really interesting that you're targeting the younger audience. And I love what you said about listening to what the audience wants, right? The one constant in business is the customer. You can jump ahead a little bit to what I think of Apple and the iPhone, but it's a little bit of a jump with, man, if I were a user, I didn't even know this was possible. Henry Ford treated the automobile instead of just attaching more horses to a buggy. But the idea of I can jump far ahead, but I better start listening to the user at some point and make sure I'm making that connection.
You're 100% right. No other comment needed on that.
Cool. How do you approach risk management when you're implementing a new cutting edge technology?
It depends on what it is and the cost. Sometimes our risk mitigation strategy is if it doesn't work, we only wasted $200, right? Now, when it's a significant investment, either in time or money, one of the things I've learned is I sometimes make bad decisions, as much as I hate to admit that to my own ego. And so we have a leadership team, and every major decision that's made in this company is made by the leadership team. We vote on it. And ever since we implemented that, our losses have went down dramatically. Even the way we hire people. I have a bad habit of hiring people I like, which is not always the best fit for the job. So we have a hiring team now that does panel style interviews and they vote on every new hire. That's how we mitigate this. And so far, knock on wood, it's worked really well.
Yeah, that's a great risk mitigation strategy. Just make sure that you have at least a double vote. You touched on something there too, like hiring. I found myself hiring for skill, people who have really high expertise, but then having to fire for culture and just not having that alignment. And there are people in my organization that are really good at detecting one or the other. Some people are really good at detecting skill level, and some other people are really good at detecting how much of a culture fit the person's going to be. And we don't get a positive score from both of those, then it's just not going to turn out well for the employee or for us. Love what you're saying there.
Yeah, and you're 100% right. It's the one exception, depending on what your business is, may be a top performing salesperson. A really top performing salesperson at times, not all the time, at times, sometimes leaves a trail of bodies behind them, but they're producing revenue, right? And so then you get to the whole thing of, can I put up with this person because they're generating 80% of my company's revenue? And sometimes that answer is yes, and sometimes it's no. But you're right, the cultural fit for us is more important than anything. I'd rather hire somebody with no experience that fits our culture than somebody who has a ton of experience that doesn't fit our culture at all, because they're going to fail.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. We can talk dirty about those sales guys, those darn sales guys, because I'm a technologist at heart, but I do the majority of my company's selling. So I love that. I love that call out. Like, kind of.
Me too. I sold technology and oil and gas for 20 years before I started podcasting. I was that guy that left a trail of bodies, right? Our research and development team would talk about a new product we have. I'd go out and sell it. And then they'd get pissed. It's like, it's not ready for another 6 months. And then my manager would go, sorry, that's $1 million deal. You need to figure it out, which then made me not their favorite person. So sometimes, like I said, I've been that person before. Try not to do it now, but sometimes a top performing salesperson is that person.
Yeah, love it. So the next question, I feel like I should preface, you're a CEO, you're a business owner. And really what I'm looking for here is partially an academic answer. Is there a framework that you use to do your business planning? Some people are EOS people. Some people are like, I just do the OKR philosophy. But the question is, what advice can you share about connecting your technology roadmap to your overall business strategy?
So we keep a rolling 18-month business plan. It's a live document. It's a shared document. The leadership team can update it anytime. Of course, there's an audit trail, so we know who did what, when, and where. But things change. This new presidential administration has changed the excitement of people in the oil and gas space. It hasn't actually affected the day-to-day operations. The whole drill, baby, drill thing is a great thing to say. You can't just start drilling the oil well. So none of that has changed. but the excitement and the energy around it has changed. So we've had to adopt. My sales team now has nothing but inbound leads. They're not out there looking for new business. They're having to qualify inbound leads. So we had to adopt that. Even the way our CRM is structured, we had to change that. So the thing about having a business plan is you need one. You need a roadmap. If you don't have one, you're leaving money on the table. I was that guy that did everything off the cuff, never needed a plan, thought it was stupid, a waste of time. I was wrong. At the same time, you have to be willing to change things and adapt because something may change in your business world that you need to respond to. And from a technology point of view, sometimes that means you spent money on something that isn't as valuable as it used to be. Sometimes you got to spend more money and qualify what that looks like. Is it okay? Like speaking of CRMs, maybe my CRM isn't as good as it used to be because now my salespeople's job has changed. Do I forklift that and bring a new CRM? And if I do that, does it fit with the rest of our tech stack? If it doesn't, do I have to get somebody to do I have to go buy API or get somebody to write some code? So there's a financial element to this too, but I'm just telling you, if you don't have a business plan of some sort that you're not following, you're going to make mistakes. It's going to cost you way more money than if you did have one. And at the same time, when you capitalize on those changes in your business market, that's just new revenue, which may pay for the stuff you need to change.
Yeah. So this is exactly what I help clients with, help them establish their business plan. And then the technology roadmap or their technology hopes and desires are just the initial strings that get pulled on. But what inevitably happens is full clarity around their business plan and what they want to see accomplished, both operationally and technically. And hopefully I even get to know them personally on what their personal challenges are and both false and positive beliefs about themselves. So I love exploring all of that. And it just seems like the tech initiatives or the dreams that they want to accomplish digitally are just the initial strings that get pulled.
It's also usually the exciting thing, right? The fun thing, right? And so I see a lot of technology being bought because in that moment, that salesperson that's selling the technology told such a convincing story. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. The buyer thinks it's going to alleviate a lot of their problems. It's magical, blah, blah, blah. In my opinion, the technology buy should always be one of the last things you do. Figure out where you want to go, how you're going to get there, what resource do you need to get there. And then once you have all that, look at what technology will enable that. And I'm a geek. I like cool gadgets, right? We just came back from CES. I could have spent $2 million there of my own money if I had $2 million, but get the business down first before you start spending money on tech.
Yeah, I found that conversation happening a lot when Uber was growing in its successfulness. Before they wanted to become publicly traded, nobody was really not knew publicly what was happening in their books, whether they were profitable or not. Maybe if you really deeply read some articles, you could determine that. Everybody wanted to create the Uber for X. That is that they were taking a 6-year-old company and saying, I want to be like that. The business model of the two-sided marketplace, right? Supplier and demand. What Uber had to do is they had to develop in both sides. They had to develop towards the supply, like their driver relationships, and they had to build towards the consumer, making a world-class app that was easy to get a ride on and had all those bells and whistles. So I would have people come to me and say, I want to create the Uber for X. And before they'd even started anything, I was like, if you do this, the amount of investment you'll need to solve both of those. So then I started talking about a service-enabled business. What service are you going to provide? What is your X? And then how could you provide that service operationally with just scraping a couple lines of code together to deliver it? And that was a far more successful business model because the time to first dollar was much shorter. And so starting with the intention of making a product, creating a service around it, and then easing in, address the demand before you worry about the supplier. If you end up being successful, you can eventually accomplish both. We were able to create a company that was able to help semis when they were broke down nationally. So the national brand for helping with that. And they started that way, started the operational way first so that they could accomplish the demand. They could solve the market need without overbuilding. And eventually they created the supplier side. I find a lot of people are challenged with that. They want it to be automated or sophisticated from day one instead of, okay, I'm just going to have to roll up my sleeves and service the customer.
Yeah, there's two parts to that. So the first thing is what Uber did that was the hardest. Before Uber, you would not have paid money to get in a car with a stranger. In fact, if you're a little kid, that's probably something your parents warned you not to do. Don't get money to get in a car with a stranger, right? They pulled it off. They did a masterful job of marketing themselves, and they still do a really good job of marketing themselves. But the other side of that is sometimes technology is not the answer. Sometimes paper and pencil is the best solution to the problem, right? And don't just automatically think that if you throw tech on it, it's going to be better. Sometimes it's worse. And no matter what you do, anytime you're starting to throw tech on something, there's a cost involved. So you got to be real careful. What are you trying to accomplish? Are you trying to have fun and build a cool company that does gee whiz stuff, or are you trying to make a dollar? There's two different avenues there.
We have a matrix, a build versus buy versus partner matrix. Partner is in the lower quadrant of low risk if your capabilities are lower. And I always say the capabilities and the uniqueness. So if the idea is unique and the risk is low, then I may want to build because I can just go do it. And if I'm capable of it and it just doesn't easily exist in the market, I'm going to be in that build category. But for most of us, we will partner with most of the things. Like we will partner and configure because that would be in that lower quadrant. What are my capabilities? There's plenty of things in the market to do this particular need. And then I want to keep the risk low. So most of it, so it's no wonder that the SaaS revolution has taken the world by storm because it's the being able to partner well and partner cheaply. And there's just very few cases where we need to build or buy. And I think those cases are drastically reducing.
In my space, we've got to the point now where we've made a couple of acquisitions of other podcasts because it was quicker than trying to build an audience ourselves. However, it's a significant cost to buy something instead of building it yourself. And in my case, building it yourself doesn't have the same cost that building a tech product would have. So it may be different in the podcasting world. You're 100% right, especially when your company is young and cash flow is the most important thing. Just be really careful, people. Just pay attention to what you're doing and try to minimize this type of risk. And you're right, partnering with somebody not only is a great way to minimize risk, and even though you don't make as much money or make as much a percentage of margin, it's a great way to get fast cash in the door, right? So partnering is always a great thing. Plus, it feels good. You make good business relationships. Both your businesses benefit from it. So it's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah.
When it's done well.
Yeah. You develop a different kind of skill. You may not develop the skill of building tech or innovating in a certain way. But like you said, you'll build partner relationship management function. You'll become good at that. You'll learn different solutions that pre-exist in the market. You'll become good at configuring those partnerships.
And you may learn that your idea wasn't as good as you thought it was. Maybe even though you have a solution to a problem, nobody wants to solve that problem today. If you remember Segway, it was awesome. It solved no problem that anybody wanted to solve, but it was awesome. You don't want to be Segway.
It was the perfect thing, but the market was much smaller. Their SAM was much smaller than their TAM. What lessons have you learned from initiatives that failed to deliver expected?
What a great question. The first thing I had to learn, even though it was a blow to my ego, is sometimes I make bad decisions. We've had some epic failures. Early on in our business, we've taken on sponsors that we should not have taken on just because we needed the money. People that are in business themselves, I understand it at the bottom of my heart. I've paid my own people my personal credit cards. I've been there. And so I understand that sometimes you just got to take the business that comes to the door. But as soon as you get to the point where you don't have to do that, recognize that and then tell people that they're not a good fit. You'd be surprised how often they'll come back and ask why. Sometimes those clients that were not a good fit for you, or the clients that you end up firing because there's a pain in the butt, sometimes they change. Most of the time they don't, but sometimes they do. But it's just a better way to be true to yourself, true to your business. When you get to the point where you don't need every single dollar, it makes it a little bit better. But yeah, taking on clients that we should not have taken on before. We've made investments in everything from cameras to microphones that 4 years later was ridiculous, the amount of money we spent, right? The ability to shoot high quality 4K video on your iPhone or even 5K now with some good lighting and a microphone, you don't need to spend $20,000 on a high-end video camera. You can do everything with your phone now. The same way with podcasting. I'm speaking to you on this $80 Audio-Technica microphone. Does it sound as good as a Shure? Nope. Is it close? It's damn close. And it has some features the Shure doesn't have. You're going to make mistakes. The biggest thing is don't beat yourself up. If your heart was pure and you thought you made the right decision, learn from it. Surround yourself with people that make better decisions than you and rely on them to help you make the bigger decisions.
When I want a new result, I set my intention. I get messed up with the mechanism. So if I think of intention plus mechanism equals result, in the end, yes, I'll have to have an intention and then figure out how to do it. But oftentimes I make the mechanism a barrier. So, hey, I want to start a podcast. Oh, that means I need to buy all this gear. And so that's just such a cool point that you're making there where, hey, you want to do a thing, just do the thing. Don't worry about all the stuff you need to buy. Just set your intention And the other thing in programming we talk about is this idea of yak shaving. And yak shaving is like an old fable about a guy who wanted to paint the fence. He had to make a brush. So he went and whittled the handle. The day was over and all he had done was shave the yak to make the bristles for the brush. So he spent a bunch of energy on the way to do the thing when he could have just done the thing.
Yeah. Some of that's wired in our DNA. I think we all said you walk into your office and you go, you know what, it needs to be cleaned up. I'm gonna straighten up my file cabinet or whatever. And you start doing that, and you notice 30 other things that need to be done. And by the end of the day, you've done all this stuff, but you never straightened up the file cabinet. I think a little bit that's wired into our DNA. The other thing though is also it's a bit of an excuse on why you're not starting. I love the podcast reference. Hundreds of potential podcasters who really had what it takes to produce a good show never get started. I'll wait till I can afford the right mic. I'll wait till I afford the right mixer. I need to hire an editor. I need the right camera. No, you don't need it. Just start. To your point, just start doing it. You will get better as you go. But if you never start, you never get there. So sometimes I think those are distractions you tell yourself because you're a little bit worried that you're going to fail. This is keeping you from having to deal with the fact that you may fail. I know it's overhyped, but failure, especially if you're an entrepreneur, startup, small business, is not necessarily a bad thing. Failure is one of the ways you learn stuff. You've only stuck your finger on a hot stove once in your life. You learn that very quickly.
And failure is never a state of being. A failure to climb a mountain free solo is probably an end game, but failure is not a state of being. It's just an attempt and a result. In our minds, though, we think of failure as a state of being. If my first version of effort doesn't, then we label ourselves with it. But it's just a signal, right?
I think it's also a product of Western civilization. If you travel outside of the US or other countries, technology maturity point of view, they don't look at failures the same way. You look at people that are farming and raising animals to feed their family, they just need to get their family fed. If they plant the wrong crop and it doesn't work, they just keep moving. They plant another crop. So I think part of it's a byproduct of our Western world.
How do you cultivate a culture of innovation inside your organization?
Dude, that's hard, especially as you grow. So we're at 30 people now. And every now and then lately, last year, I'll see something like on LinkedIn and I'll go, damn, that's really good. And then I'll look at it again and I'll go, that's us. I've now become disconnected from my frontline marketing people. They do a great job, right? As the organization grows, I now need managers for some of these frontline people. And that's another layer in between. And that stifles constructive conversations, brainstorming, innovation. And I struggle with this. My answer to you is I don't know yet. To me and to all my peers that I've asked this question to, and to even to my own mentors that I've asked this question to, part of growing a company is as you get bigger, you lose some of that. And so the best you can hope for is to keep some of it. And you do that by one of the things I do all the time. My entire team knows this. It's a mantra of mine. If you're trying to do the right thing, if your heart was in the right place and you screw up, there's no negative emotions in my head, none. If you did something that cost us money or we lost a client or a podcast episode didn't go out, but you were trying to do the right thing, that's totally cool. It's when you don't do the right thing. Trying to keep that innovation culture for me has been a bit of a struggle. And the bigger we get, the harder it is, but it's something I'm extremely aware of because what I don't want to be is this big bloated organization where the people at top have no idea what's really going on in the real world. Unfortunately, I've seen a lot of companies that are like that. So I don't have an answer for you because I'm struggling with that myself. If you have an answer, please tell me.
What we're encouraging is visibility to the vision, like really seeing this is what we want to accomplish, this is how we want to accomplish it, and keeping relatively flat culture, like you're saying, relatively flat organization. I find that it is difficult to underscore the need for feedback, for folks to say what they really feel, what they really think, and have that kind of brutal honesty. The culture of innovation is really tied to how free you feel to speak your mind. Free speech, if you will, is super critical. And also being able to say, hey, man, I'm experiencing you as withdrawn or not as engaged, and I really need your help. I'm trying to model that and keep this brutal honesty where I'm not so interested in people being nice as much as I want them to be kind. People will tell you that your breath stinks and you need a breath mint. Nice people won't. And so, yeah, I think that's been an essential piece of, hey, let's tell people that their code smells and needs to be refactored. Let's not just move on and take whatever we get has been a challenge and something worth fighting for. As a CEO, I think the one thing that I should micromanage is the culture.
Yeah, interesting. So you just made me think of something I've never thought of. So if nothing else comes out of this interview, you put a golden idea in my head. With my sales team, we do this direct feedback after every sales meeting. Literally, when we walk out the door, First thing I say is, let me tell you what you did well. Let me tell you what you need to improve, right? But then I ask them to do the same with me. And they know that in that moment, in that post-sales meeting moment, it's a learning exercise. I'm not going to get upset at whatever you say. This is us sharing factual information that we observed because another pair of eyes and ears is useful. I never thought about applying that to the rest of the company. So Benjamin, thank you for that because it makes total sense. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, awesome. So people like what you've had to share today. How would you like them to connect with you?
Easiest thing is reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm on all the social channels except TikTok. We have a presence there, but I am not the TikTok person. LinkedIn is where I do most of my stuff. If you're interested in the oil and gas energy space, we have 21 different podcasts that cover a variety of topics published once a week. There's bound to be one or two that might interest you. And if not, just reach out to me on LinkedIn anyway. I love to have conversations with people that have different views and different opinions. It's one of the best ways to learn anything.
Cool. Hey, man, thanks for being here with me. Really enjoyed the episode, and I'm sure our audience will too. Thanks for your time.
I appreciate it, Benjamin.